Happy Friday, people. Kratz, Braun, Josh Harrison back in the seat. Jay, good to see you. I'm going to paint a scenario for you right off the top here. Okay. And I know you played for other teams and you were just back in Pittsburgh, right? Getting honored
Yeah.
and retiring as a Pirate. Super cool. So let me take you to a current world scenario, a now scenario. And I happen to be wearing his shirt today, Tarek Skubal. So you're the best pitcher in baseball, back-to-back Cy Youngs, right? Your team's close enough. And also you feel like you deserve a certain contract number. And sure, probably both sides were a little bit high, a little bit low. And you get dealt, okay? It was like a few weeks ago.
Right.
Now you're already coming back tonight to start against the Tigers. That's got to feel weird. The only other thing I could think of from this year was Kevin Gossman was traded to the Cubs, and then there was a chance he was going to face the Blue Jays like in his first start, and he was like, it's a little much. But here's
Yeah.
Skubal, like not many starts into his Dodger career, already back in Detroit. And here's the shirt, by the way, while Josh tells us about what Tarek might be feeling today. The Dodgers Tarek Skubal shirt is there. So if you'd like to troll Tigers fans or you're a Dodgers fan, just looking for a good time with one of the best pitchers in baseball, foulterritoryshop.com. But Jay, hey, your thoughts?
No, it's a sick shirt. Definitely gonna be a little bit of added motivation for him. That's where he started. Got his guys across the way, and his guys just played behind him. So I'm sure there's gonna be a little bit of added motivation as far as not only bragging rights, but as you mentioned, he's pitching for something. The Dodgers are, obviously in a playoff race, and while it's all fun and games, and you strapped on the uniform with those guys, I'm sure Scuba's gonna have a little chip on his shoulder. And obviously knew that being dealt was part of the, business side of things. I don't think it's anything that the Tigers didn't want to retain him, but obviously they were probably a little bit off in numbers. And, what better way than Scuba to go say, hey, you probably should have paid me if you don't want to see what I might be doing to your team. But as I said, on the flip side, the Tigers are going to try to, make it as tough as they can. But I look for Tariq or, Scuba to, go back to Detroit, as you said. It wasn't too long ago, so it's fresh. So you can still kind of feel that adrenaline. So it'll be interesting to see how he pans out.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, he's going to have some adrenaline, but the Dodgers have lost 30 straight. They get beat by the Braves. They played, it was a good series, all that stuff. But you know what? Tarek Skubal's coming back home. He knows this team. He knows their weaknesses, but he's also a very confident pitcher. I expect the Dodgers to win this and Skubal to put it to this Tigers lineup.
You're already throwing predictions on us. All right. Don't get frisky on us yet. We're only a few minutes into the show, but I like it. And also nice shirt from Kratz too, an Adley Rutschman shirt, speaking of somebody who was traded and landed with a different team. But let's begin our show with someone who's been on the same team for a few years now and is dominating. Look at those pearly whites. All smiles presented by Lorraine Co. And let's get into Chris Sale. Complete game shutout, first time in a minute, and he dominates the Dodgers. The Dodgers get swept by the Braves. The Dodgers are only one game up on the Braves for the second spot in the National League, and that's the second bye that you would get. The Brewers have one, so only two teams get a bye in the postseason. This was a meaningful series. And damn, Kratz, I didn't know Chris Sale still had it like that. Pumping 100 on us for the first time. The fastest pitches we've seen from him since 2018.
That's crazy. 8 years since he went over 100. He's had a few 99s. And it wasn't against the 9-hitter. It was against Shohei Ohtani. So he understands. He can get back in. He can dip into the tank a little bit. I don't know that he knew he had 100 because when we talked to him at the All-Star game, he came to our set at the All-Star game, and I asked him, I was like, hey, do you got that in you? Because I remember that. I don't know, Jay, hey, if you remember it, when he came out in the All-Star game a few years ago, however many years ago, when he was young, and he was like, I can just let it eat. We saw some 101s. I wonder if there's even a 102, but either way, he's got it in the tank, and he rose to the occasion. I'm so excited to watch him pitch in the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure, man. Almost one of those things where you don't want to say better with time because obviously he hasn't been throwing 100 forever, but still in the tank. And as you mentioned against Shohei, a little bit more adrenaline, knowing that somebody's on the mound, reach back a little bit more. And something that I think he said in his post game interview was almost a little, not these words, but I'm gonna use these words, a little bit of angels in the outfield. I believe a good friend of his had passed that day, and I think he mentioned that she had even he might have even felt her presence. So a little bit added motivation where you got Shohei, and then something went a little heavy on his heart. He poured it all out there. But definitely gonna be interesting to see because he's been pitching really amazing, and the Braves are, as you see with what they just did with the Dodgers, are making their way, and it's going to be interesting.
Can we run the sound from Chris about how he did this? I think that was fun. And then we'll show his son reacting
Yeah.
too. That went pretty viral. But let's start with Chris Sale. I'm a sucker for these kind of answers. Obviously sometimes you want to get the real baseball detail, but also sometimes I prefer this versus the cookie cutter. Oh, I was focusing one batter at a time, blah, blah, blah. Like, give me something funny. So Chris did it.
It's beautiful.
You threw a pitch over 100 miles per hour for the first time in 8 years. How?
With my arm.
How? Well, I threw that pitch with my arm. That's how I did it. Nice.
Straight to the
complete game. The complete game part of it is crazy because you have a great bullpen. It's a great lineup that you're facing. Man, more in the tank, like Jay Hay kind of alluded to. Like, I don't see how this guy doesn't end up top 3 Cy Young this year. If it wasn't for Misiorowski, what he's doing in this type of performance in late August could have pushed him to win the Cy Young. The Miz is going to win it. Let's be honest. But, man, Chris Sale to be doing this at this point in his career, Hall of Famer.
2.06 ERA. I mean, the Miz is doing things we haven't seen, especially with the velocity. But Chris Sale in most seasons would be a Cy Young winner. It's a good call here, Kratz. I mean, he's got the innings, the 2.06 ERA, the strikeout rate off the charts. He's doing it all. He's making his starts. The Braves have managed him well. I believe this is still true. I think after his first 1 or 2 starts of the season, it was regular 4 days rest. Many pitchers these days don't just do 4 days rest. And this is your example. I think almost every start, if not every start since, has been 5 days rest. They've got the plan down with Chris Sale, and it is working. Whatever you're doing, just keep it. And also, his son is recognizing his game right now. Speaking of all smiles, did you guys see this?
Yeah, I saw it. That's he's like, hold on, he coming out. And I'm sure after the game when Chris saw it, he was probably pumped because, a lot of times guys don't get a chance to play to where, some of their kids really understand what's going on. So that's dope to see his kids' reaction.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that was
It's
good.
ridiculous to be able to see because, I mean, the way he talks about it, he broke into the league as a young, just, the standard whippersnapper coming into the league. Hey, he's probably going to be a bullpen guy. He showed them, no, he's a starter. He's played a whole entire career as a starter. He went through things that would have broken a lot of other players. He went through injuries. He went through a lot of critiquing from the Red Sox fans, reestablished himself. And this is a stat that like kind of encapsulates Chris Sale and kind of reminds me of like, hey, you know what? You see his son react. You realize family is important to him, all that stuff. He has never once gone to free agency. He has always signed some type of extension no matter where he's been. Red Sox fans might say, oh, it's a terrible extension. They have a World Series because of what he did before that extension, but he has always done that. It just shows loyalty. It shows just a different path of going about it than other players have.
Josh, did you face Chris? I'm assuming you did, right?
No, I faced him when he was with Boston.
Okay.
And I want to say that was around, it had to be around like 15. I think we opened up in Boston. And I think I was 1 for 2 or 1 for 3 on him. But it was my first time facing him. I obviously knew who he was at the time, but we just never crossed paths because he was with the White Sox. And I just remember like, man, this dude is flinging this ball from the other side. And the scouting report was like, man, if you've never faced him, like you might want to push him out and over. And then I had somebody, that's faced him because it wasn't too many of us with the Pirates who had faced him, at this time. So there's a couple guys like, yeah, man, if you see a heater out over be ready to swing, just know that his slider or slurve comes out the same spot. So like he's really good at, throwing that back foot. But I was 1 for 2. I hit a ball off the wall of him. It was a short single due to Fenway, but I think the other one I struck out on like a high heater. But it felt like it was at the belt and it was like at the letters. But as I said, man, it's not too many guys that's throwing from his angle that also has not only that, you have to have command with it. And as you said, his numbers are a testament of a guy that's attacking the zone and a guy that, has done this year in and year out when he's healthy.
2 for 7, Kit. 2 for 7. 2 punchies. I feel like against the Hall of Famer, that is a legit stat. So 2 for 7, good for you. I never faced him, but like Harry said, that ball comes out from a different spot. So like you just don't. I wonder if traject even can get guys ready for it. You talk about like crazy extension that some guys have. You talk about it's so far out here, and it's at that lower angle, and yet he can still upshoot it, and then he drops that slider that you're just like, that's a ball. Crap, that's not a ball. Oh, that's a strike. Ow, that just hit me in the back foot.
That's 98.
Nice.
Yeah, and actually, right, the guy who he's probably going to lose the Cy Young to in the National League, the Miz, also just brings it in such a different way with the extension, the perceived velo. We're going to get to him later because it does actually lead to some issues for him, like it did last night. But all smiles for the Braves. I mean, that is a statement series. We're in late August, and they sweep the Dodgers. Very impressive, and potentially a preview of what we can see in the postseason with the Braves and the Dodgers. Dodgers will have a different looking rotation at that point, but we love it. All right. Baseball fans, lock in. Lorraine Co. remineralizing pouches are nicotine free, and they're made with powerful nootropics to keep you mentally sharp while supporting your teeth. Yes, both. You can do both, mentally sharp and help those teeth out. Go to buylorraine.com and use code FT10 at checkout for 10% off. Can you bring us on just for a quick sec? I want to show what the boxes or what the pouches are.
Right now.
Oh, you do?
Right now. Oh, yeah. I have a mango in.
Can you take it out just to show us what it looks like real quick?
I won't take it out of my mouth on TV. That would be gross. But it's just a little pouch. And it's not like people are like, oh, I don't like the caffeine this, caffeine that. But like when it talks about the nootropic, it's like you're just like a level of focus. And it's good for my teeth too.
Yeah, help those enamel out, people. And we will be right back with Ken Rosenthal.
One of the things that I wasn't very good at was playing Major League Baseball. One of the things that I'm really good at is sweating. Even now, when I'm not playing, I need hydration. I need to make sure it's convenient. That's why I choose Quince.
Yep, Quince electrolyte stick packs to the rescue, Kratz. They taste great, and the zero sugar options are stevia-free. They're keto approved, naturally sweetened with fermented rice, and like everything Quince does, they're thoughtfully made and priced well at $20 for 30 servings. They're less than half of the leading brand. Give your body what it really needs to stay hydrated. Go to quince.com/foul for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/FOUL for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/foul. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Yes, this is the Inside Scoop. Foul Territory Senior Insider Ken Rosenthal is with us, and I'm excited to get into the National League wildcard race. The American League wildcard race gets so much attention for so many teams. Ken, before we do that, and this will kind of be our segue into it, let's get into one of those teams, the Diamondbacks. So we did Fair Territory yesterday. You explained a lot about your article. I just want to give these guys a chance to chime in too. So let's just start it like this. What stood out to you about the Ketel Marte article and the work that you did behind the scenes to uncover what happened here?
What stood out to me, Scott, I guess, would be that there's probably more to it than we knew. And that's always the case with players, often the case when you have situations like this. And I'm not excusing Marte because you have to show up for your team. You have to show up at the ballpark. And if you're hurt, okay, but you got to get there. So that is all given, that there is no excuse that he had to do that. He knows he was wrong. He's apologized for that, my understanding, to Mike Hazen, the general manager, and Torey Lovullo, the manager. What I didn't know was that he's got some stuff going on off the field with a family member, a close family member who is really, really ill. And then you have also the knee injury and the frustration he was dealing with there. Again, I'm not excusing it, but that is one thing that stood out to me in putting the article together. The other thing is, Mike Hazen, the general manager, was very frank, saying, listen, we're trying to win baseball games, and he's an extremely talented player. It's not always going to be perfect, and this is the strategy or the course we've chosen with him. And listen, it's been a few years now where you've had incidents or situations like this with Marte, and they've lived with it. Now, you can argue, and I mentioned this, that they've been too forgiving, that they've been too soft on him, and they should have maybe traded him when they had a better chance to do that. Now he's a 10-5 guy, probably can't be traded. But at the same time, he's an extremely valuable guy on a below market contract. Well, that's the kind of player all teams want.
I thought your article hit on the human side of Marte, going through things and then how he emotionally handles things. Lovullo, and even the front office with Hazen. But one of the things did you get any hints when you talked to the players that they ever felt like he wasn't giving it his best on the field? Because I didn't see anything in the article about that. It was more of, well, Ketel being Ketel, and yes, he's done this before. Did they ever hint that maybe the effort wasn't there on the field?
Well, I didn't include this, and it's not a lack of effort, but some guys pointed out, and Torey Lovullo in the story, the quote I had from him when he said he's frustrated, he retreats. Some of the players pointed out that that can be a situation that happens during a game too, where it's not that he'll be checked out, but maybe he's just not as into it as he should be. There are things that you do on a field that maybe you wouldn't do when you're completely locked in. So overall, the sense I got was he's not a disruptive guy. He's not a bad guy per se. He is just someone who maybe is more emotional than most and more high maintenance in certain respects. And I don't say that in a bad way because a lot of players are high maintenance, but he needs positive reinforcement. That was one of the players told me. He needs that. And Torey Lovullo kind of indicated the same thing. So again, there's a lot to all these guys. All the players are out there. We see them. We see what they do on their performance, with their performance on the field. We don't always know what's going on behind the scenes. And I want to be clear once more. I'm not saying, oh man, poor Ketel Marte, because Ketel Marte was wrong here. But at the same time, there is a depth that we need to understand, and we don't always know. Even the reporters covering the team don't always know what's going on in guys' personal lives. Even their teammates don't always know what's going on. And it's just worth repeating that and understanding that. The game is really hard. I don't need to tell you and Josh that, Eric. The game is extremely hard to play. When you have other distractions, other things, injuries, it becomes that much more difficult.
Yeah, for sure. And as Kratz said, you hit on the more personal side, human side, because obviously there are two sides. And he retreats, and we've gotten through all of that. But do you think there was any indication that the team knew any of this before the article came out? Like, is this something that they tried to keep under wraps, or were they just thinking that it was just an injury, and then as this stuff comes out now, this is because obviously players talk about, not the drama, but obviously he plays, but sometimes they can, we've been in clubhouses. You don't want anything to take away from the objective at hand, which they said they're winning baseball games. And since he's kind of had this, I think the record's been 5-4, I believe. I could be wrong.
6-5, something like
Or,
that.
or something like that. Do you think that little bit of looming over is going to carry over into this last month? Because I know he's slated
That's a great
to possibly
question.
come back.
Josh, that kind of leads us to the next step here, which is once he comes off the injured list, I think he's eligible as soon as Monday. What happens? Now he's going to apologize. He's going to address the media. He's going to apologize to his teammates. We know that. That's going to happen. They've basically said that. What happens to the team dynamic? Do they simply welcome him back and say, listen, this guy's a great player. He can get us to the playoffs? Or is there some kind of lingering tension? I don't know the answer to that. And you guys both know. 26-man clubhouse, you're not going to have unanimous sentiment on anything. Some guys will be more supportive of Marte. Some guys will be more frustrated, exasperated, whatever the word you might want to use. As for did the Diamondbacks know this side of his personality? They absolutely knew it. They went through it last year. They've been through it even before that. So again, they've been willing to withstand these storms, if you want to call them that. And they've been willing to do that because, again, he is a special player.
Let's talk about this National League race, that the wild card race that the Diamondbacks are in. Where do they go from here? Not with or without Ketel, we've hit on that. But how does this team find the path to make it into the wild card, to make that last spot, which they've kind of faltered a little bit without Ketel?
It depends on the pitching, Eric, in my opinion. They are in a precarious place with the health of their staff. Soroka just went on the IL again. They expect to be back. They've been waiting on Corbin Burnes and Zach Gallen. And who knows when they'll be back, if they'll be effective when they're back, and can they survive in their present state where they are right now? I don't know. And the Padres have played really well in the last, 6-8 weeks or so. It's a tough team to chase, even though certainly the Diamondbacks are within range here. So if I had to bet right now, I'd bet the Padres. I just think they're in a better place overall. And you can factor in the Marte situation when saying they're in a better place overall. But it's a race, and we'll see what happens down the stretch. The Diamondbacks are a good team, and they've got one superstar, Corbin Carroll, a guy named Geraldo Perdomo, who's a really good player. Maybe hasn't had the best year. And then Marte, who is capable of amazing things. You guys asked me what I learned in the article. One of the things I learned is that he hit that walk-off homer in early June against the Dodgers to give the Diamondbacks a split of a 4-game series at home. That was the 6th hardest ball hit by a Diamondback this year. The guy who has the 5 hardest, it's also Ketel Marte. And that speaks to his talent. He hasn't had the best year either, but they are capable of doing big things. We saw that a few years ago when they made it to the World Series.
One more with the Diamondbacks. Gabriel Moreno. Gabriel Moreno behind the dish. Have you seen the maturation of a player that got his team in the first year of a trade to the World Series and then has taken some criticism and now is back again is to that potential again this year?
Sure seems that way. And he's a guy that has had some injuries too. So you never know how that figures into his development. And I was just talking to a GM this morning, not the Diamondbacks GM and not even someone who was talking about this situation. And he said, relative to prospects, the old line, it ain't linear. These guys do not always follow a linear path, go straight up from the start of their careers. George Lombard Jr., right now, classic example. Been in the big leagues a few weeks, amazing defensively at the start, and then we see the 6 errors in 6 games, and it's baffling to people. Well, because it's not linear. So it seems to me that Moreno has followed that kind of path, and Eric, I don't need to tell you, it's even more difficult for a catcher in today's game when there is so much information to process. So he is a stalwart for them. He is one of their key players, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Okay, Ken, to switch gears, I think you also wrote something on Andy Green wanted to prioritize family over managing. And I know Andy a little bit from his days at UK. He played with my older brother Vince, and then obviously I played as Andy was coaching. And he was actually in Pittsburgh when I saw him, but I didn't know that. But it was one of the quotes that popped out to me. Do you see more managers looking at that? Because I know it was not necessarily a big deal, but it was brugging up this past Super Bowl. And Andy Green is kind of one of the first managers that I've heard say that. But we all know playing a sport, coaching a sport, there are sacrifices. But is that something that you expected? Because I know he kind of took over interim. And just reading that, I thought that was interesting.
Josh, I would say I didn't expect it. And the reason I didn't expect it is his career arc. So you go back to San Diego, 2016 to 19, four straight losing seasons. He's fired at the end of the fourth, before the end of the fourth. And he comes to, well, he goes to Chicago to be the bench coach for David Ross. Then he comes to the Mets to be the farm director. I would have expected, what I did expect from him was, hey, man, now's my chance to prove I can manage. And that's not what I heard. It's not what we've been hearing, Will Salmon and I, in covering the story for The Athletic. So it doesn't necessarily surprise me knowing Andy a little bit and knowing how much he values his family. It's not to say other managers don't value their families. His twin girls are at an age going into their senior year of high school where he feels he wants to be present for them. And for whatever reason, he doesn't feel like managing is this burning desire for him where he's going to sacrifice what he would need to sacrifice. Now, the interesting aspect here is front office jobs are much more year round than managing jobs or playing jobs. The front office guys never get a break. Even Christmas week, they're working usually with transactions and all that. But the way it was explained to me, and this is true, I know this from covering the sport, front office people, general managers, farm directors, whichever you want to discuss, they have the ability at least to break away at times to see a family event, whether it's, I don't know, a dance recital, a sporting event, whatever the case might be. So a fan might say, well, what's the big deal? I mean, he's away from his team with him as a manager, he'd be away from his family as a manager, he'd be away from his family as a front office guy. Well, it is different. And either way, it's not like you're present for your family all the time, but there are choices you can make, and being in the front office is one of them, to maybe ease it a little bit, at least during the season.
Ken, you are doing the unbelievable Red Sox-Yankees rivalry this weekend, which is maybe going to be a precursor to October. All the things that you guys are going to say on Fox 1, and you're going to be on the sideline reporting all this stuff. Are we even really looking at the two teams that we're going to face, especially considering that in the playoffs right now, they're not going to have a TBD when the Red Sox play the Yankees for the starting pitcher for the Yankees. We don't know what George Lombard's going to do. We don't know if Trevor Story is going to be back, Roman Anthony. Are we looking at two teams that are actually going to face each other, or just two uniforms that are going to face each other in the playoffs?
Eric, that's a good way to put it. You didn't even mention Aaron Judge, who's not going to play this weekend, obviously. So the point you're making is, are these the teams on the field that we're going to see on the field in October? And the answer to that is almost certainly no. With the Red Sox, the return of Trevor Story seems to be imminent. Roman Anthony, that's imminent too, but the reports this morning are he's still in Worcester and he's not going to join the Red Sox, at least today, for the opener of this series. It's a 4-game series, doubleheader tomorrow. We've got the second game on Fox. So that alone is different. Garrett Crochet could be back as a reliever. That's different. And then with the Yankees, Max Fried, he returns in this series. That's the expectation. And then what becomes of Judge? Now, you saw the comments yesterday. He doesn't want to go on a rehabilitation assignment. I'm sure that's going to be a matter of discussion between him and the team. But no, these are not exactly the teams we're going to see in October. And there are going to be some differences. With the Yankees, too, the evolution of the pitching staff, how that's all going to play is going to be really interesting, too, because they're down some relievers. Some of their guys are hurt. They're hoping Clark Schmidt comes back. They've got the possibility of putting Will Warren in the bullpen if their rotation is healthy enough in the postseason. And then there's Elmer Rodriguez, who just came up and came back again and looked much better than he had in his previous outings in his rookie season. So it's a great point that the teams we're going to see are going to be close to what we'll see in October, which is only really a month away at this point, but not exactly the same.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean that's the difference. And Roman Anthony isn't going to be ready. I mean, I'm clamoring for it.
I don't know that he isn't going to be ready. It sounds like he's not going to be playing for the Red Sox tonight. So he's really close, and he's been out for so long. And remember, when they were struggling at the start of the season, I talked often about how they built their team around him, and it was a flawed premise because he was so young and then he gets hurt. Well, they've turned their season around. Obviously, we've talked about it at length. Credit to everyone involved, including the chief baseball officer, Craig Breslow, who I was hard on. A lot of people were hard on earlier. But here they are in a great position. I believe they have an 8-game lead for the final wild card spot, so they're going to make the playoffs. And it's one of the more stunning things we've seen in the game really in a while. Actually, we seem to see one of these every year. Cleveland did it last year where they came from nowhere to make the playoffs, but this one was particularly surprising.
Well, Ken, we're looking forward to it. Yanks Red Sox is back, like Kratz said. We'll see you on the game broadcast.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ken Rosenthal, FT Senior Insider. AJ's on that one too. Watch out. Oh, and Wainwright. It's all happening on Saturday on Fox and the Fox One app. Race to October. It's happening right now. Follow every can't-miss matchup as teams battle for a spot in the postseason, and then stream the 2026 World Series live on Fox One at home, on the go, live, on demand. Never miss a moment. Stream now. Start your Fox One 3-day free trial today at fox1.com. And we got a little Fair Territory promo, QR code, bottom right corner of the screen. If you want more on the Ketel Marte story, by the way, then definitely check out the last episode from Thursday. We'll be right back.
Bella, where? I don't know where Bella is, but I know how to take care of my pup.
Kratz, while you find Bella, today's episode is sponsored by the ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program. The ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program offers customizable accident and illness plans that can fit your budget, your lifestyle, and even your pet's particular quirks. Because let's be honest, vet bills can add up fast. And when it's time to submit a claim, it's easy. Just use their app and receive reimbursement for eligible vet bills directly into your bank account so you can get back to focusing on what really matters, your pet. To explore coverage, visit aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. That's aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. This is a paid advertisement. Insurance is underwritten by either Independence American Insurance Company or United States Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer and is not engaged in the business of insurance.
That's what she said.
Yep, that's what he said. Presented by Lorraine Co. Let's hit the Miz. I almost said Jacob deGrom. I'm thinking dominant pitcher, strikeouts in Queens.
Jacob.
I get it. That's a fair. That's your one mistake
Stopped
for the year,
myself.
Scott.
No, I didn't say it. So doesn't count. It's like a check swing. I didn't go.
Let's check.
Did he
Sorry,
go?
Didn't go. No.
Harry, did he go?
He didn't. He said he thought it. He didn't say it.
Let's go.
Are you kidding
me? All right, let's get to Miz. So let's get right to what he said, and then we'll react to it about how this isn't the first time he's had issues with the mound because of how far down the mound he goes.
Yeah, it was just a little wet, once we battled through that, the grounds crew was really working hard to try and get it figured out. And, I'd get it fixed for a batter or two, and then I would dig out just from landing. It would crumble away and, back to where the mud was. So, I think it was a part of the day and, was what it was, and got to figure out a way to power through it.
Was it getting on both feet or just the land?
Mostly just the land. There were maybe a few, I mean maybe 1-2 times that I slipped on the backside, but, mostly the front side.
How was it affecting your pitches?
Yeah, I think that's a big factor of, not being able to control the front side. There's no wall to hit, and so, you kind of are throwing with all arm.
So that's the Miz, and you would think, oh man, he must have gotten shelled, right? No, it was 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, 25 starts, a 1.73 ERA. The Brewers won the game. They're 17-8 in Miz starts. Kratz, I'll let you start here since you dealt with the pitchers all the time. How common is this for someone? And we're looking at it now on video. If you're listening to the pod side, you can check out video with us maybe on YouTube at some point. But walk us through this.
I've never seen a pitcher twice in a season need a mound repaired. And he's done it. He did it a few times in Los Angeles when they're playing the Angels, and he complained about it. He said it was awful. But both times he says at the end, he goes, yeah, you know what? I got to deal with it. And if you can deal with it by giving up 2 hits and going 6 with 6 punchies, I feel like it just shows you're on another level. And that's why he's going to be the Cy Young Award winner. But when he's sliding with his landing foot there, it's really the mechanics of, and if you're watching right now, it's really how far out he gets. And I don't think the grounds crew is doing this on purpose. And I'll explain why I say that in a bit. But I think it's just something he extends so far out with that front foot that I think he's landing, especially on the road when he gets out there and pitches second, he's landing past where the other guy's foot is already dug out from the first inning. And so it's something he's going to have to adjust to. But Jay knows that some fields, they do a little bit on the field to make it a little bit of a home field advantage, you know? Like they wet down the base path a little bit. They wet down in front of home plate a little bit for a ground ball pitcher that's the home pitcher. I'm not saying they're doing this, but whoever the Brewers face in the postseason might think about that.
Oh yeah, all fields are not created equally.
Yep.
I mean, I know they had the CBA where now all of them supposed to be cut out the same distance behind, the infield, but and all the mounds are supposed to be the same height. But we know, I mean, I pitched a few games and I've pitched at a few different
stop it.
stadiums. I was throwing 63 at some places, 70 at other, but not that was due to the mound. But there are some that literally you can feel time of day, depending on the conditions. Some might have been tackier than others. Some might have had a big hole. And you mentioned Miz is, his stride is longer than a lot of people. So his heel might be landing where most people finish. And I think you mentioned too, like he said, I just got to power through it. But he was also aware enough to know that, it could cause for, him not to throw against a stiff front side and, put more on his arm. But it's definitely one of those things that you would definitely look out because there are also some of those stadiums or places that you would go that's like, yeah, they wet down the base paths or, I promise the balls look like they rubbed up a little darker when we hit as opposed to when they hit. All the little gamesmanship things. But yeah, realistically, though, you really try to make sure that, those pitchers do have some type of landing spot to where it is, solid for them to where they can land correctly. Because as you mentioned, he's a freak athlete and he's striding out past other people. And you just want to make sure that first and foremost, that these guys' health is going to be fine. And, he powers through it. Like he said, power throwing it and going 6 with 2 hits. If that's power throwing it, I'm glad I'm done playing and don't have to face somebody if that's what's called power throwing it is.
I don't want to face him anyway. 104, we're good. We're good. I'm good. I've been done for a long time. But exactly what you said. He actually mentioned it in his start. I watched the interview after his start in Anaheim, and he said, yeah, this could cause, the question was asked him, could this cause an injury? Yes. So good for him understanding his body, understanding, you know what? I'm not going to get on it. I'm not going to try to hit 103, 104 every pitch, which sometimes you see him do that and you're like, whoa, he's got it going today and able to pitch. That's crazy because we talk about it all the time. A lot of throwers in the game get taken advantage of by hitters because they throw and they're not necessarily hitting spots. He was able to back it down, only hit a few pitches over 100 and still be able to go deep. For the Miz at this point in the season, 6 innings is deep into the game. So it was awesome, but it'll be interesting to see what happens when he goes on the road in the playoffs.
It was a favored start by some of his friends, like DL Hall. Reliever thought that it was his favorite outing of the year from Miz. He said he didn't have his A stuff, and he was sliding on the mound, and he still did it. That's grown man stuff right there.
I love that last sentence. That's grown man stuff.
Yeah, and he's got grown man stats here for somebody so young. The last pitcher age 24 or younger who had an ERA as low as Jacob Misiorowski, the 1.73 mark through 25 starts in a season. You'd have to go to 1985. Doc Gooden, a 1.64 in his first 25 starts in 1985. I mean, come on. This is incredible. That's right now. There it is. And look at it's crazy. Look at the shiny, beautiful stats here. Kratz on the right side of the screen, especially. I mean, it's a Christmas tree when it comes to the StatCast page for Miz.
It's crazy. I was trying to read. If you're listening on a podcast, everything on his StatCast page is red, and the baseball is all the way over to the 199th percentile. And then there's one that's like just white. It's just kind of a little bit above average, and that's his ground ball rate. Well, you can't hit ground balls when everyone's swinging and missing. But I was trying to look it up. And I'm doing it on the fly here. I'm going to disagree with DL Hall. While I wasn't there to see him fight through that and like do grown man stuff, I have a hard time believing my favorite start would not be the one against the Phillies, because that was on June 12th. He had 15 punch outs in 95 pitches and gave up a single hit. So sorry, DL. I get it. He grinded through it. Pitchers want to see guys grind through things. The most dominant start of this season by far was against the Phillies lineup. 1 hit, 9 innings, 15 puncheos, and 0 walks.
Impressive. It's just a ridiculous season. I want to make sure we keep giving it love, especially down the stretch here, because then we're going to, in a month, focus on playoff Miz and what that looks like. What about playoff Judge? Can we get to Aaron and the latest quotes from him here? And that's what he said, presented by Lorraine Co. Judge said he hopes to return without a minor league rehab stint. Oh, Brian Hoke, who covers the Yanks, got this quote from Judge. I didn't rehab in 2023 when I missed probably the same amount of time. Why waste at bats? Why waste anything down in a minor league game? I've been doing this for a while now, and I've got a sense of what I need to do on the field and how to manage it. Jay Hay, your thoughts?
I'm not mad at it. You talk about a guy. You talk about a guy that knows his body. Obviously, he's been through some injuries, but I honestly can attest to it because I had a stint in 23 with the Phillies, to where I had to go on an injured list for something with my wrist. And instead of going down to play, rehab games, I was like, I can keep my legs fresh here. I'm lifting, I'm running. My at-bats, we got a traject machine in the cage that I can face whatever pitchers, righties, lefties, I can take my at-bats here. Being a guy that's played some rehab games, like after about 2 or 3, you're like, all right, man, there's really nothing. Like it's not the same. It's hard to simulate it, even though you do need to get back on your feet. But if he's doing everything to keep his legs under him, you know that he's out there running, shagging. If his legs are under him and it's about getting at bats, I think he can take those at bats off the trajectory. I mean, what else do you have it there for? I don't know if y'all feel any different, Kratz, but I don't know if you've seen a trajectory machine, but I literally was taking at bats like, oh, put the righty up. I'll take 5 at bats. You can mix in his pitches. Now, to your question, I don't think it simulates extension. We were talking about Sale. I think it will simulate their release point, but you're not going to get the same type of extension. But I do think there's some benefit, especially for him. He's like, if y'all want me here, I can do my stuff here, and when I'm ready to go, I'm good to go. So I'm not opposed to it.
He's gonna rehab against the Rays, rehab against the Orioles. He's not rehabbing against Norfolk. And part of that, too, we'll get to it later with the Red Sox and Trevor Story struggling in AAA. It's almost a lose-lose for Judge to go down there. You face guys that you're not going to be facing in the big leagues. He can be around a big league training staff. And if you don't do well, he's not ready. He's not ready. Dude, this team's going to make the playoffs. They're solidifying their spot. He's not going to get in the lineup and hurt them. And they don't have an expectation of he needs to play 26 games in a row. So, yeah, a guy like that, he's better than most players. So if he says, I don't need him, he doesn't need him.
One more quote I want to get to in this segment. This one went viral on the West Coast, especially. Zach Manassian, who's the number 2 in command in the front office, to Buster Posey, addressing bullpen issues this year for the ball club.
Yeah, I want to be a little careful to say rebuild the entire bullpen. Something I was looking at the other day, the ninth inning obviously has been a huge issue. And our bullpen ERA, when you take out the 9th inning, I think the last time I looked, it was a couple of days ago, 6th in baseball. So when you look at some of the names out in that bullpen, some of the guys who have stepped up and thrown well. I know Dylan Smith had a tough one yesterday, but Dylan Smith he's thrown well this year. Carson Seymour's looked really good this year. Keaton Wynn, who unfortunately is hurt right now, I think took some great positive strides. Sam Hentges and and Jason Foley are two guys, first year removed from injury, and those guys have flashed what they can be at times as well. So there's talent there, but one thing I will say is I know as a front office we don't feel comfortable obviously resting on what we have.
All right, so that's him on CanBR, and then Kratz, of course, people went nuts. They're like, wait, so you're not going to include the ninth inning in this part of the conversation? I actually think, like, he got roasted by some people, and I'm like, I actually think, like, whatever. Should he phrase it that way? No. It wasn't the worst thing. I got the point. Hey, we like some of our bridge guys. We like our setup. Like, we don't have a ninth inning option. We should look for a big name closer in the offseason. I got it.
Wait, yeah. I mean, isn't this on him? Is this on the office? And I know with Buster they're not going quite the near at all close to where it was when I'm blanking on the Farhan Zaidi.
Oh,
Farhan
Zaidi,
Zaidi was there, where the ninth inning didn't matter. And, it doesn't matter what inning. They're all just innings. There's high leverage innings and there's not high leverage innings. So I don't think they're in that boat. But they went into the season with that position, the ninth inning, the closer position, not solidified. And I think it's something that with stats, if you say, well, you know what? If I take out all of the games where I struck out, I was a really good hitter. Like, what? No duh. If you take out the ninth inning, it's a key inning in baseball for them. So is he right? Do they have pieces? Yes. To me, I think it's something that you have to make sure you have solidified going into the offseason or going into a new season. You need to have your closer, not, I hope Ryan Walker steps up. I hope one of these young guys is that guy. And it hasn't happened for the Giants.
Yeah, definitely. You need high leverage guys, and to say we've been good except for the ninth inning, today's game of baseball, they've always talked about bridging that gap and having a deep bullpen. What good does it do you to have a good bullpen if you can't finish it in the ninth? Everything you've done up to that point is, as you said, it's a flip of a coin toss. If you're saying, I hope this guy is good. Because more times than not, I mean, you look at teams that have dominant closers, it's like, oh, you get to the ninth inning. I mean, you want somebody that's coming in that's going to shut it down. And what good does it do to, scratch and claw, get the lead going to the ninth inning, and then you're just like, oh, let's go throw this guy out there and hope he gets it done. So, as you said, it's a reflection on kind of what they did. I'm a firm believer you have to be able to close games, especially in today's culture where, there's going to be a point in the playoffs where somebody's going to be pulled after 5 innings because they're going to say, we got the bullpen and we want to get this 6th, 7th, 8th guy to get to the ninth. So what good does it do to have this 6th, 7th, 8th guy if you don't have a ninth? So kind of makes no sense to me. But at the same time, as you said, he could have just said, yeah, we need to go find somebody to close back end part of the game.
Yeah, that's it. You could have said it just like that, what you said in a sentence from Manassian, like, hey, we like what we've got, except we're going to look for ninth inning help. Cool. Got it. Like, thank you. But cherry picking stats is a beautiful thing. Anyway, yeah. Lorraine Co. Remineralizing pouches, nicotine free, made with powerful nootropics. They keep you mentally sharp. They support your teeth. Go check it out. LorraineCo.com. Code FT10 at checkout for 10% off. On Deck, presented by the Fox One app. Let's get into the Yankees and Red Sox. Really, mostly Red Sox focused here, of course, as we talk to Chris Cotillo back on the show, masslive.com, co-host of the Fenway Rundown podcast. Go check that out. Chris, great to catch up as always. I actually want to start with what you were talking about, Kratz. I'm going to throw it right to you. Forget me for first question. Go ask him your Trevor Story question.
You mean besides the fact that Trevor Story's down in the bushes and he's not doing well, and Aaron Judge just came out and said, I don't want to go down to the bushes. I can just rehab in the big leagues. But Trevor Story's getting roasted, and now writers like you demons that you are, you're
Seriously.
like, where's he going to play? So was it worth it for him to go down to the bushes, or should they need to? And does he have a spot to play?
Yeah, I mean, right now trying to figure out if he's going to be in the lineup tonight for the Red Sox. It's still unclear if him and Anthony are in New York or headed that way or what's going on. They're not in the Worcester lineup, but apparently Anthony was there earlier in the day, so lots of confusion. I mean, I just think with Story, I know a lot of people have talked about, does he deserve to start every day? At the end of the day, this is one of the guys who got them to the playoffs last year, played well once they got there, and he was really dealing with this hernia thing for the first, month and a half when he was on the field, and he really thinks that affected his play. We've seen from Monasterio the last few weeks, offensively have not been great. Defensively, his range is at the bottom of the league. Look at StatCast. There's a lot of blue there when it comes to Monasterio's glove. He's a good depth infielder. He had a really good offensive July, but I think at this time it's time to turn it back to Story. That's not to say he doesn't have an unlimited leash. I think if he struggles for 2 or 3 weeks and you play the hot hand with the Sogards and the Sieglers and the Gaspers, whoever's around, but it's still Trevor Story, I think, offers the biggest ceiling of these guys, especially defensively at shortstop, and I think that's what they're gonna do.
All right, what's going on, Chris? Obviously, talked about Trevor Story. You mentioned Roman Anthony too, and a handful of guys that have been, kind of playing in their absence. When say both of those guys get activated together or one day apart, who are the two odd men out? I know Gasper's played pretty well since he's come up, and the names that you've said. So obviously, you mentioned Story is probably got somebody that they're going to trust a little bit more shortstop, given to what he's done in the past. But who are the two odd men out right now that you see if they are bringing these two guys up?
My guess is Siegler is number one, just because he's a guy who's barely played the last, 2 weeks or so. He got a couple starts in Miami before that. Sogard was basically playing every day at second, and they like what Sogard's given them. So I would guess Siegler goes down. And then the wild card to me is that second move. They could delay one of these guys until tomorrow and get an extra player for the doubleheader and then not have to worry about this until Sunday, which might make some sense to do. I think when they do make that decision, Monasterio going down is a real possibility just because they will probably feel covered at shortstop with Story, with Sogard who can do it, and with Kiner Falefa coming back, likely when rosters expand on Tuesday. And like you said, Gasper has been so good with the bat. Sogard has been really, really good. There's, I guess, an outside chance they send down Connor Wong and make Gasper the backup catcher behind Rutschman, but they like what Wong does with the pitching staff, and he spent, really the majority of the last 4 years with the big league team. So it's not an easy decision. I didn't think we'd be sitting here on August 28th and talking about, Roman Anthony and Trevor Story are coming back. What are they going to do with Mickey Gasper, who's an up and down guy? But they've forced their hand into making these tough decisions, and, we'll see it play out here over the next couple of days.
Let's keep Mickey hitting and
Yes,
maybe not as much catching. We'll get to Adley in a little bit here, but I got to just ask a general Roman Anthony question. Did they see what they needed to see in the minor leagues coming back from that mysterious hand injury? Or was it just, the amount of time that we said we wanted to see him in the minor leagues, that's it? Like, do they see the bat speed? Do they see the bounce back health from everything for Roman Anthony to come to the big leagues and play every single day?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've kind of learned from the mistakes they made earlier in the year. Romy Gonzalez was rehabbing and spent only a handful of games with Worcester and Portland, had a setback in the middle of it, came up and his timing was not there, and he wasn't the same bat he was last year, and they actually had to option him because other guys had passed him. With Adley Rutschman on your shirt there, they had 2 games of rehab for him when he was in Worcester. He got activated, and he's had 2 2-hit games, and other than that, basically an offer or 1 hit and 32 at bats, something like that. So I think they've kind of realized, all right, even if these guys and these names would look good in our lineup, makes more sense to be deliberate. I still think they think Anthony can be a game changer. They like Duran's defense in left, so that's a part of this too. They're probably going to keep him out there over Anthony and have Anthony DH a lot. But, with these long layoffs for both Anthony and Story, they wanted them to get a lot of at-bats. They obviously have. Apparently, they might get some more. As we sit here, it's a little TBD. But, I think that Anthony's shown them, at least results-wise, if that matters, more than Story. And people are excited about him coming back too.
Yeah, sticking with Roman Anthony. Obviously, you said he showed like probably being in the position where he's ready to be back. Want to change gears because I think he gave you a quote about something with his social life. Was he able to tap into that a little bit more? Could that be something that could not? I don't want to say hinder him, or is that something that he's going to try to, block out the most that he can when he comes back? Because obviously it's a different day, different time of era, from when I was playing and social media and all this stuff. So I know he gave you a quote on, his social life and stuff. And one thing you want to not intertwine, obviously, when he's making this comeback, he doesn't want it to overshadow what Boston has going on.
Right.
Did he speak on any of that, or is this something that you see? Just he's a young kid that is going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way he put it was, when you're a 22-year-old kid and you do anything other than, go out, people are going to have something to say. And I think it was a really mature way to handle it. I mean, for me, it was a question I felt like needed to be asked because it's been a narrative here for the last 3 or 4 months that he was too busy hanging out in the seaport, getting dinner in the North End to rehab that hand. And that's why it took so long. And honestly, I think that, that was a little harsh on him. It was a very, very mysterious, weird injury. It was something doctors hadn't seen before, and it basically came down to the guy couldn't grip a bat. Forget swing it, could not put his fingers around the handle. When you can't do that, you're not going to be able to hit a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. You're not going to be able to hit soft toss or even swing. So I think that, it was kind of an opportunity for him to kind of buck some of the narratives that have come up over the last few months. He was, not, I don't think, excited to be having to answer those questions, but they're what have been talked about on talk radio and what fans have said on Twitter and all those types of things. And it's the first time I think in his career, really interestingly, that he's faced this type of criticism, adversity. You guys know top prospects can do no wrong because it's all upside, no downside. Then we saw what he did last year before he got hurt. We saw what he did in the WBC. And then this year he was, getting MVP hype before the season, including from those of us on the Red Sox beat. So maybe it's just another lesson that these things are not linear. Guys have ups and downs and injuries and those types of things. But I think he's the type of person that very, very mature, very, very well thought out answers on all this stuff. And it bodes well for how he'll kind of bounce back from this weird period that he's been down. And, the Red Sox just need him to get hot here for 5-6 weeks and into the postseason and see what happens.
All right. The guy on my shirt. I said we get back to it. Adley Rutschman. Much was made about the trade and how, oh my gosh, how could you give up that much for Adley Rutschman? I'm on the Adley Rutschman side. That's why I wear a shirt. What's the sentiment in Boston? Are they getting value out of it, even though hitting-wise he has been a disappointment coming off of rehab?
Yeah, I've kind of argued this with a couple other the beat writers who said, it's a catcher. You're not just getting him for offense. Well, to me, if you just wanted good game calling and ABS challenges and everything that comes with catching, they had Narvaez and Wong, who had complete command of the staff and familiarity and all that stuff. And the pitching staff was still one of the best in baseball with those guys. They got Rutschman because they thought it was a huge offensive upgrade over what Narvaez, who's had a bad year, and Wong, who, has not had a good 2 years in a row now, were giving them. And if you look at it, it's he's hitting 170 in a Red Sox uniform. He's not to the point where he can play more than 2 days in a row. He's got this elbow thing going on that's cost him the last couple games. We'll see if he's in there tonight. But I think it's kind of been, an underrated storyline because the team has kept winning and there's been other things to talk about, whether it be Anthony or Story or some of these guys coming back, that, Rutschman really has not given them anything offensively. He's hit some balls hard. He had one home run in a big spot at Fenway, but I think it's been a disappointment so far. Obviously, a very, very small sample size. Obviously, the guy's get a lot of talent and a lot of upside. And if he gets hot in September and they're all firing on all cylinders, it'll be a different story. But I think they were hoping for more just because the floor with the catchers behind the plate was pretty high before even getting him.
My question would be on the acquisition of Adley Rutschman. Was there because the Red Sox have really kind of gone deeper into the analytic side of positions, was there more into the fact that Connor Wong is one of the second worst receivers in the game and Adley Rutschman is one of the top 10 receivers in the game? Because some teams are really overvaluing that receiving stat.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, obviously the playing time, they were just trying to ride the hot hand with the bats, honestly, at the beginning of the year with Narvaez and Wong. Wong became Sonny Gray's guy. So that, for the guy who's been really the staff ace, a really important thing. And, Narvaez had different guys he worked with, and last year he had a really, really good season all around, and people were excited. I think that, all that stuff to me, there is a learning curve coming in mid-season and learning a whole new staff. I mean, he's been with the Orioles his entire pro career, comes in, has to learn these guys on the fly. So any sort of defensive upgrade might kind of be canceled out, at least in the first couple weeks, in my mind, just because of the familiarity. You know probably better than I, as someone who never caught in the major leagues. But I think for them, it really was, I think, mostly about the bat, just because that's what this team needed. That's why they got Curtis Mead, who got hurt immediately. That's why they got Rutschman. It hasn't shown up. I mean, he's not a rental. There's still a month left, and next year lockout pending. So a lot of time for him to get things going. But to me, I just, you don't give up 4 good prospects and your starting catcher for a receiver, honestly. And I think that they thought it could be an impact bat. There's still time for them to do that, and we'll see. But so far, it hasn't been there.
All right, Chris, I want to ask you about John Henry. Is he around as an owner more because they're winning, or is it more that he's just being shown more where they just weren't showing him on TV? Because the question is he walking around proud because they're winning, or is it a situation where the stations just simply weren't showing him, in his element? Because obviously there are 2 different sides of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is something I've tried to tackle for a story that ran yesterday over the last couple of weeks, and I've talked to a lot of people around Fenway for it. And basically, my theory originally was, well, this season, for whatever reason, he's around more, he's at Fenway more, he's going to more games, all that type of stuff. And talking to people around the ballpark and people in the organization, they said, no, he's around the same as he has been in previous years, but there seems to be this really kind of purposeful effort to show him on TV, to show him on social media, that type of stuff. And it's interesting because for years, the Red Sox, and I've asked Sam Kennedy when he's come on our podcast or he's done his spring training scrums, whatever it is, what's the biggest misconception about you guys? What's the biggest thing people get wrong about Fenway Sports Group? And he always said, it's people don't think John Henry is very involved or that he cares. And to me, it was always like that meme, like we got to find the guy who did this. Like they hide the guy, and then they say that they're surprised people don't think that he's very involved because he hasn't talked to the media in 6 or 7 years. I mean, he hasn't really done public appearances or been out and about. And this year, he's on the Nesson broadcast a lot. He's showing up, hooting and hollering on his wife's Instagram story in big games. He's going down into the stands at Fenway, and I think, to me, it's a purposeful thing by the Red Sox and a really smart one. And fans feel like he's involved. And he was involved in the firing of Cora. He's been involved since Tracy took over. Wins, losses, all of it. It seems like there's a real effort to show him. And I think it's overdue, and I think fans appreciate it. And just knowing that the guy who ultimately signs the checks, the ultimate bottom line decision maker guy, is there and hanging on every pitch is something that Red Sox fans didn't feel like was happening for the last, I don't know, since 2018, 7, 8 years. And it feels like this year, just the sightings, again, that Linda Henry Instagram story of him when they beat the White Sox in that crazy 13-inning game. People love that. People eat that up. So good for them, I think, for doing it the way they have. But there's something going on where they're trying to make him seen. And I think overdue, but a good thing.
Yeah, that's good PR. I mean, that's just smart. I can give them a couple other tips. One, hit up a bar and pick up the tab. Always a win, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very easy to do. I think he can afford that. And then the other one I think would be, how about talking to the media maybe once every 10 years or something like that? Just give me something.
I mean, I've exhausted myself with that plight, and I've exhausted fans with that plight. So, to me though, honestly, Scott, like I think that the other stuff, like, would it be great to ask him whatever questions are on our mind once a year, whatever, as reporters, and would it give us a ton of stuff to write about? Of course. I think the other stuff in this being seen and throwing the fans a bone by going into the stands or, the Instagram stuff, whatever, is more important. Like, that's all people care about. They don't care that, me and McAdam and Ian Brown and Bradford are getting quotes. So it's just his involvement. That's all that fans want. And I think they're getting more of that this year, and it's playing out right in front of their eyes.
That's true. I'm with you. I would say the only thing is don't discount yourself. I mean, the media is a communication line to the fans.
That's
if he
right.
speaks to you guys after the trade deadline, like, yeah, you know what Craig Breslow said, not everything has to be slicing and dicing every number. We just felt like this was the right move here. That would resonate. But I see what you're saying. Beggars can't be choosers. Yeah. We're trying here. Baby steps with him showing up and them showing more shots of him. Chris, good stuff, man. Appreciate the time, dude, as always.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris Cotillo, obviously Mass Live, and you can check out his Fenway Rundown pod, and then you can check out the Yankees and the Red Sox. They're playing tonight. Tomorrow, that game's going to be on Fox 1. Fox 1 also has the Rangers and the Brewers tomorrow, by the way. So both of those games streaming on the Fox 1 app. Never miss a moment. Start your Fox 1 3-day free trial today. Fox1.com is the spot. All right, SeatGeek helping us out, obviously looking ahead at some games and some tickets that you want to grab. I'm going to actually focus on the Pirates for a moment with this slot because Paul Skeens is the seller, right? Paul Skeens starts, sell much better in Pittsburgh, Josh. So I want to spend a minute here to get your thoughts on what you've seen from Skeens this year and if you think the last outing is the re-breakout where he finds it again and has a nice, strong final month.
I don't want to say re-breakout, but obviously him going 6 innings with no walks and keeping it a 0-0 game and a 1-0 win was big for the Pirates, especially in the time that they needed. I think they're 2 games behind St. Louis, which are still 7.5 behind the last wild card big series. But, if you're going to make an interesting push, you need Paul Skeens to give you what he gave yesterday. And it had been, I think it's the first start they won since May of his. So a big win for them, him going 6 innings, as I said, no walks. And maybe something mechanically, maybe he was able to piece something together because there's been some disconnection. There's been some stories out. There's been some videos. But nobody really knows other than Paul, intuition. I'm sure he's feeling things and just slowly trying to piece it together. And that was definitely a step in the right direction, going 6 scoreless in the game that they won 1-0. So it'll be interesting to see, where he goes from here and just build off of that.
Yeah, and that game was Tuesday, by the way, the one that you're talking about. And then the next one for Paul is on, well, he's not listed on here, but I'm guessing Tuesday, then he'll be probably.
It'll probably be back home. They've been getting a little creative with his starts based off of trying to give him some time to work through some things. And I mean, his last 2 starts, his velocity had been up and which was encouraging for them, but it's not just about velocity. It's about being able to make your pitches. And I think him going 6 innings with no walks was him being able to say, okay, I think I'm piecing things back together because we covered it with Miz. Even if his velocity, if he dialed it back, he was still, making his pitches in those starts that Paul was struggling. He was walking guys, leaving pitches over the middle. And, maybe you see something headed back towards, him returning back to form a little bit, obviously end of the season. But, they say it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
That's right. And also, so Jared Jones is pitching Friday. Then they've got a TBD on Saturday, but it won't be Skeens Ashcraft on Sunday. And then, they're back home against the Giants. So that's probably the landing spot for the next start for Paul Skeens. So if you want to grab a ticket to that, the spot. It's SeatGeek Territory 10 for 10% off MLB tickets. You know the deal. You go on there. They take care of you. It's the official ticket marketplace of MLB. Go check it out. Use that code, or you can save that code in the description of this episode where you can download the app, and then you can use that code a little bit later on. Giants reliever Dylan Smith joining us right now, and we're thrilled to have you on here. Dylan, thanks for the time. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good. How's life in the show? I mean, tell us not only how things are going for you, but for our fans too, like your story. Give us a little bit about, how you got into what you're doing here now in the show.
Yeah, so I started, 2021, I was drafted by Detroit, 3rd round. I went up through the minor league system. I ended up debuting last year with Detroit Tigers. Then I got DFA'd earlier this year, right before the season started. So I was in spring training with Detroit. Then I ended up getting traded over to the Giants and spent time in AAA for about 1.5 to 2 months. And then from there, I've been up ever since.
Do you feel like you're taken care of when that's happening? Like most of the time when we have dudes on here that are stars, they're like, yeah, even Aaron Judge just came out and was like, well, I don't want to rehab in the minor leagues. Do you feel like, especially with the CBA coming, that you're taken care of in those situations. You went to spring training there, then you're DFA'd, then you're sent down to the Bushes, and the Bushes is now a big league stadium, but it's not when you're playing there. Is it taken care of for you, and do you have what you need?
Yeah, I feel like I have what I need so far. I feel like everything's been an easy transition, especially when I came over from my agents to the staff and the team. I feel like they made it an easy transition for me.
Okay. Yeah, everything you talked about, man, transition, Kratz talked about a little bit. And then you mentioned being, I think, right at the end of spring training, you said you were DFA'd and traded to the Giants, right?
Yeah, like
And
opening day.
And drafted in 21, you said?
Yep.
I've played for multiple teams. I know Kratz has as well. But you were presented with it kind of like a whirlwind really quick. And, for 5 years or so, you only knew Detroit, in that system, right? And then you get traded. Was this simply just a case of, just needing an opportunity? You know what I mean? Like, not that you didn't have, but is this a case where, like, just given an opportunity that, this is what you've always wanted, which is what every player wants, but is there something that you got another set of eyes, set of hands, or is this just something that you're like, I just needed an opportunity?
Yeah, I just feel like I need an opportunity. I feel like with Detroit, I got, kind of squeezed out in the roster crunch. But I feel like ever since I've been over here, I feel like it's been God's blessing and God's timing, where the doors have opened for me.
Yeah, for sure. And that's how you got to plan it. You got to be ready. And then when an opportunity comes, you glorify him and do that. But one of the things that your assistant GM, I think that's his title, Zach Managian, said, one of the guys that's doing really well in these leverage situations is Dylan Smith. When you hear that through the path that you've gone, maybe not always the number one guy, does that give you confidence, or do you just say, you know what, I got to go out and I do my job every single day?
Yeah, it gives me confidence for sure, especially when you have an organization believing in you and you got Managian and Buster Posey and everyone behind the scenes that, rooting for you to do well, and it just helps you go out there and play better.
So I know you've kind of been like the ninth inning option lately. Is that something that you could see yourself really settling into? Is that something that you want to do, or are you just like, man, I want to, is that something that you feel comfortable doing? Because obviously it's a position that every team needs, and obviously you're like, oh, give me the ball, I'm gonna take it whenever. But is that something that you want to settle into, or do you have aspects of being a bridge guy, or I'm trying to get a feel for your backstory, because sometimes you get put in a position that you might not have necessarily prepared for, and sometimes that might be the organization seeing something in you that you're like, hey, I've never thought about this.
Yeah, I've always wanted to be a closer or a starter in the big leagues. Whatever one granted me the best opportunity, and right now I feel like being a closer is something that I've always wanted to do. So because the high pressure situations don't really faze me, I go out there and I treat it like it's a game, which it is. You go out there, have fun, pitch by pitch, and do my thing, and everything else will fall in line.
What kind of entrance do you need when you solidify yourself as a closer? What kind of entrance do you need? We ask every closer this.
Ooh, I think the lights off are pretty phenomenal. When the lights are flickering on and off, I think that's the best one. And then the speakers are blaring loud with my music.
Okay, so but what if you were to create your own? Yes, the lights flickering on and off, kind of you melding other guys that you've seen in the game. What would you add into it? And what song do you come out to? I don't know what song you come out
to. Yeah, so for me, let's see, I like a mix of how Mason Miller comes out and Aroldis Chapman, maybe a little highlight video of me striking out some guys on the screen coming in, the lights flickering off, then on, and maybe like a spotlight camera following me all the way into the game. And I use Hard in the Paint by Waka Flocka.
Okay, that'll have me ready to go out there and make a dive and play for you. Hey, that Hard in the Paint. When you're going out to pitch that ninth inning, as you have, do you click into like another mentality? Because right now you seem like a super chill, fun loving, like going guy, but like when those lights clicking off and on, like, is there another side of Dylan that is like, okay, I'm here, and this ain't the Dylan that y'all see as the nice guy. This is the Dylan that's about to go hard in the paint.
Yeah, so for me, when the ninth inning comes on, pretty much it's a different mode. You know, I'm in there in attack mode, every pitch, ready to get you out.
All right. Are you glad that the bullpens are not on the field in San Francisco? I mean, I don't think there's anybody left that had to warm up, because you guys, when I played for San Francisco for the minute that I was there, the relievers were in the dugout, and they were like, and relievers are weird. Sorry, you guys are weird, but being in the dugout, is it a different environment being out there?
Yeah, you know, it's a different environment for sure. You know, I felt like when the bullpens were on the field, you know, I spent time in AAA and in National League where bullpens were on the field. And so you always have to call time because someone spikes the ball and it goes past. So I'm kind of happy that that's not the situation right now. You know, I'm happy that we have our bullpen in the outfield where you don't have to worry about those things.
Right. I just want to commend you on something that, you know, guys that play this game, play any sport, there are going to be good days, there are going to be bad days. And it's easy to, you know, close out a game and strike out the side, or, you know, hit the walk-off home run and get in front of reporters and, oh man, I was looking for a good pitch, or I was being aggressive in the zone. One thing that stood out to me about you was, and not to pour salt in the wound, but, you know, as I say, you have good days, bad days. You had a rough outing against the Reds, and it was harped on how you stood in front of your locker and answered questions. To me, that is something that's going to take you a long way. But is that how you've always been, or is that something that you're just like, you know what, I kind of learned this, or is that just you like, you know what, you win some, you lose some, but you know what, I can shower this off, as we say in baseball, and be back the next day. Because especially as a reliever, that's a tough trait to have. I've been with position players that would leave the locker room. So for you to do that, is that just something that you like, you know what, are you good at having a short-term memory?
Yeah, I feel like I've learned to grow to have a short-term memory. You know, every day, like you said, it's not going to be your best day. You got to come to the ballpark ready to play the next day. You know, that's the good thing about being a reliever. You always get an opportunity, maybe a quick turnaround the next day. You'll be able to get back in there and go shine, you know. But I feel like it's kind of a tough situation, you know, especially when you felt like the game was in your hands and, you know, it slips away to go talk to the media. But I feel like that's just part of being a man and, you know, just going about business a different way.
All right, talk to us about the Jefe, Tony Vitello, the man who he went hard in the paint the other day and got thrown out of y'all's day game and didn't get to see it didn't go your way, the exciting part of that game and everything. But tell us about him and seeing how he's handled this down season for the Giants when all he's ever done is win everywhere he goes.
Yeah, you know, Tony's been great. Honestly, I just feel like he's learning the system as well as we are, but I feel like he's a really good manager and he's put us in a lot of good spots. You know, especially how the season's been going. It's not great how everyone else anticipated, but I feel like he's been motivating us to keep pushing, just go out there each day, play the game the right way, and things are going to fall in our way, you know. So I feel like he's been working behind the scenes trying to keep everyone motivated to go out there and handle business.
All right, you and Kratz already covered the bullpen question with it being out in the bullpen, but you pitching later in the game, obviously back into the game. Who's the character down in the bullpen that keeps things light or whatever? Because every team's got a character down there. Is there somebody that you can think of, or is it kind of a collection of guys?
I feel like it's a collection of guys. You know, when you have Jesse Chavez as your bullpen coach, you know he's a funny one that keeps everything light out there. We have a dude named Carson Seymour. He also is a good person to be around. So I feel like those two people keep things interesting out there and things are light, you know, where you can have fun and kind of relax, you know, where tensions aren't really tight.
All right. I still believe that Jesse Chavez was the one that licked the urinal cookie when we were rookies with the Pirates. He denies it and says it was somebody else, but you need to ask him about that. And he's be like, no way, Kratz keeps telling people that. But that's not a question, okay? That's more of a comment. Is there a difference in the little bit that you were with the Tigers, and I say a little bit, you probably felt like you were in the minor leagues for a long time. Do you feel like there was a difference when you went up to the big leagues in how they approached your game calling compared to how you're approaching the game calling with the Giants? Because your numbers are drastically different. You have great numbers in a tiny little sample size, except for the strikeouts, which the Tigers pen has never really had that many strikeouts.
Yeah, I feel like both sides have kind of worked with it a little differently. I feel like with the Tigers, like they knew me coming up through the system, so I felt like they were just trying to utilize all my different pitches in a short span of time. Whereas with the Giants, I've gotten a fair share of opportunity here where I feel like I've been able to kind of be myself a little bit more. I feel like there's been no restrictions. They've kind of just told me, go out there, have fun, use all your pitches. We feel like you could do this better than you did here. And that's kind of how everything's been going.
All right, last one. Have you pitched at Sacramento as a big leaguer?
No.
Because I was going to ask you, I want you to think about this. So when you're out there, when you play against the A's at some point, maybe not this year, I'm not sure if you have them anymore or next year, and I want you to answer back to us what the difference is, how the field is maintained for a minor league game compared to a big league game.
All right, I got you. I'll make sure I think about that next time.
Just think about it for me, because that field is getting absolutely run through because y'all are playing on it every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah, different field for the minor leaguers versus the major leaguers. Different baseball too, right?
Yeah, it is.
No,
did you experience that?
It's supposed to be the same ball.
Almost said. Well, baseball's the same, but I was going to say something about them playing, but I forgot it's not the Battle of the Bay anymore.
Yeah.
So I was going to say they should be playing soon, but nah.
No, but the baseballs. I mean, well, Sacramento for minors is AAA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, Kratz, remember we were talking about that the other day? Double A is the different baseballs. AAA and MLB.
Yeah, AAA uses big league ball now, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
They do. Yep. They switched that in 18 or 19. Double A does not. Double A has.
I thought in Texas League they did. I thought.
Oh, okay. Maybe they have. We'll look into that. But it hadn't been big league balls, and guys were complaining about how like soft the cover of the ball was and how much of a difference it was because it just came to light with Cade Anderson.
Oh, gotcha.
The new Mariners, one of the top pitching prospects, Cade Anderson, he went from Double A, so he skipped AAA. So you go right from the different
Double
baseball
ball.
change there. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. And, obviously, as you know, Dylan, it's a pretty big gap as it is. But when you're also changing the baseball right away, there was a story out this morning. They're kind of tracking that to see, how they're doing some type of study internally with him on that. But anyway, I can go down that rabbit hole all day. Dylan, it was great talking to you. Hope you enjoyed it, man. Thanks for joining us. Keep doing your thing. Finish strong.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
And there's a Splash Hit Territory San Francisco Giants show. If you'd like to listen to that, go check it out. Jeremy Affelt, Scott Osler, and special contributor Susan Slusser on there. Lots of Giants talk. Go check it out. Oh, here we go. Proposals exchanged. The drama continues. MLB and the players chit-chatting pretty frequently, but of course it all revolves around one core topic. MLB is throwing stuff out there to the Players Association. It was quickly rejected, parts of it, plus MLB keeps saying we're not doing any of this without a cap. So eventually that's going to be the real battle that occurs. But in the meantime, I think we should go through some of these exercises. The point of a collective bargaining agreement when it comes up is to evaluate the entire sport, not just one portion of what's going on with the sport. So let's run through some of these ideas, guys. And I think that graphic really helps to tell the story of the first part, which was the headliner. It would drastically affect the way that we follow the off season. So I want to get your thoughts. And I've seen many fan comments on both sides of the spectrum here. So with the latest proposal, in terms of free agency, this is what MLB would like to do. They want a dead period until the first day of the winter meetings. So picture this, okay? I'm going to walk you through your offseason while this board helps to tell the story. World Series ends. Let's say World Series ends a little bit early, to October 25th, okay? Now from October 25th to early December when the winter meetings begin, let's say they begin on December 5th, nothing happens except for a player being able to re-sign with his own team. And that's not going to happen very frequently. So otherwise, nothing happens. You like this show? Guess what we're covering? Not much. Now, there's a free agency window that begins. And what that does is say, okay, officially teams can now sign players. So let's say it's December 5th, around when no winter meetings would begin. And for 2-ish weeks, a little more, up until December 21, signings occur. Great. Then no more signings again after December 21st. It closes on the 21st. What are you doing in January? Nothing. Not allowed. No signings. Okay. February, we resume signings. Okay. There would be a second free agent window where you could sign and trades would be allowed again from the first Monday in February onward. Let me first begin with a summary of what would occur if this actually became a thing. Everyone would be signing in February. So the World Series would end and nothing would happen legally by how MLB works in November, December, January, and we get to February. Well, now, am I exaggerating a little bit? Sure. Will some guys sign? Yeah. No? Kratz? Let's bring in our trusted friends. Yes?
I don't think you're exaggerating.
No.
I'm saying you'll get not zero. There will be some signings.
You'll get the top guys.
Yeah.
You'll get the top guys that are going to sign.
Though, Jay. Not all of them. Well, I don't know if you'll get all of them.
No.
I think you get some of them, right?
You'll get majority of them if there is a cap. I mean, what are they really going to be? They're going to go to the team that they feel is their best fit. But at the same time, you're going to have some people that's going to wait till February, especially, guys that are going to be top guys. It's going to be easy for them to find a space, but everybody else in between is going to squeeze them out. And that's why you're going to have everybody wait until February, which will put everybody in a mass panic. Oh, I got to go somewhere, which is what we've already experienced in years past without this happening. Because when owners decide they want to go into a dead period, they'll go into a dead period regardless. It happened, I want to say, the spring of 18, going into 18. And I say that because I was physically affected. I was leaving Pittsburgh on my first free agency year. And I think it was the new year to CBA. I didn't get an offer till February. Games had already started. So if you put this in and it's already laid out and you got this time slot, what's going to happen when December 21st comes and everybody hasn't signed? Everybody's going to wait till February. Then that doesn't help the team either that's trying to fill out a team. But you will have guys waiting till February, because what about the guys that have been injured, guys that are trying to come back on bounce back years? There's so many things, but I don't think you were far off. I think the only people you'd see sign in December would be guys that are going to be securing what you would consider the best offer out there, and guys that may be signing with their team just to re-sign back.
All right, I'm going to be less contrarian in this at the beginning, and then I'll give you the real stats. I'll take the dead period from December 21st till January 2nd. Let's do it. Let's shut down for Christmas. Let's give players the holiday that they want. Let's give front offices and people that are working there the holiday that they want over that winter time there where kids are home, all that stuff. That's fine. But if you do this, you are going to alienate a group of fans that enjoys connecting and watching their team grow during the offseason. Fans are going to say, I love it. Look at what happens at these other leagues. It generates a lot of excitement during that 2-week signing period. Does it? Okay. It really does. You know what else it does? Is it restricts another aspect of player salaries. And people are going to say, well, you're pro player. You're just always pro player on here. I'm not. I'm pro growing the game. Having it open the entire time brings eyeballs to Major League Baseball when we're not playing games. So that's what closing this gap down, closing the signing period down does. It takes eyeballs away from the game. For Major League Baseball owners, they love the fact that they're able to not only by a salary cap restrict the best players' salaries and squash those salaries, but making a shorter signing period enables them to take money off of the fill-in players. Once you get your superstars, now you fill in players, and they're going to be like, hey, you know what? It's February 3rd. Hey, it's the last day. Spring training starts in 11 days. Here's our last best offer, $1.2 million. And you're like, wait a minute, I should have gotten $2 million. And they're like, oh, sorry, take it or leave it. It's $11.50. And that's how they're going to squash that down. So to me, this part of the proposal is very disingenuous to what they originally said when they offered or when they proposed the salary cap.
Yeah. Yep.
And also just for exercise purposes, this has no chance of being accepted, right? But because obviously if you're on the player side, this is just a leverage ploy. But let's put that aside for a moment, right? Because I'm looking from the fan perspective. Baseball wins with volume, content volume. We have games every day during the season. And in the off season, there are signings and trades that are sprinkled throughout. Would be like some of the moves to happen a little bit earlier? Sure. But you're punting on 2 of the months. So right after the World Series, then you say, thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming. There's nothing happening now for 6 weeks. So we'll see you later. We'll see you in December for our little 2-week ride where not many players still won't sign because it's really difficult to create a real deadline, right? The deadline then becomes, we're in spring training like Jay's talking about. And that's when a lot of activity would happen. And that's late. Okay. January? You want us to just twiddle our thumbs in January? And I'm with you, Kratz. Christmas to New Year's.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Holidays.
Shut it down. Nothing happens. Great. Week and change. All good for that. Let everyone be themselves for 5 seconds with their family because our sport is super demanding in terms of the day-to-day with the way that we win by content and volume. But January? Let me give you an example of a team that actually ended up being terrible this year, right? The Mets are not good. Not been a playoff team all year. They made a lot of those moves in January. They were stealing the show, among other teams, in January with some of the moves that they were making. You'd go to some of the sites that have been around forever, right? CBS and ESPN, and you'd look top headline like Mets signed Bo Bichette, and it's deep into the NFL playoffs. Are you serious? Do you want to compete with the rest of the world in the entertainment world? This is not even a smart move from a business sense for the league. Entertain your crowd, entertain your fans over a longer period of time. To me, it's so stupid to even throw it out there, Kratz. That's my point is you're not winning on either front. The players are not all going to sign during that 2-week window. Most of them are not. And fans will not give a crap for 80% of the offseason because you're only allowing 2 weeks for anything to happen. Most things won't happen. And so then we're just bunching up all the moves into spring training when we're back to paying attention again. I'm sorry, what? Who is sitting in a meeting talking about this? I'm befuddled. I don't understand where I used to work. I really don't.
This is a common thread for Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball owners, not the players. It's a common thread of owners that it feels like they're missing the boat on selling the game. Players feel like the game can be sold as a competitive sport. Owners feel like, you know what, it's pretty much up to random. We want to win 54% of the time. Playoffs, we're not sure what happens. So we're not going to spend an extra few million to try to make our team better. Then they miss on the fan aspect of it, which is, I think, one of the reasons that Major League Baseball chose to say, this is what fans want. They want parity. And so I feel like they miss out on opportunities like this. Are they ever going to beat the NFL during the NFL season? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm getting at, how do we grow the game 1% every year, every CBA, so every 5 years, and then throughout the season? And if content is king and volume is king for Major League Baseball, delve into that. Don't diminish that. Don't take games away. Don't take signing periods away. It's time for me to stay excited for baseball, especially after, if this was last year and the World Series, maybe one of the most entertaining, energetic, awesome, down to the last play of the World Series type of World Series, and then you would have a dead period where they just say, man, what a game. And you sit there and you turn the TV off and you go, oh man, nothing for a month and a half? Oh man, I feel like it's a letdown. And you're going to go find other things to do, and you're not going to come back to baseball out of necessity or based on the fact that they did this. Major League Baseball did this, and I don't think it's very conducive to grow the game.
There are a lot of fans in the world now that are specialized, right, Josh? A lot of I'm kind of in this boat, right? Like, do I pay attention to other things and other sports? A little bit, but like, I'm a diehard baseball guy. Every single day of my life, I want baseball content. I want to read about something, whether it's the offseason and it's speculation or where will this guy sign. Like, that's what I care about. So you're stripping away multiple months of content for me?
And it's more than that, because obviously we know the salary cap is something that is always going to be out there. That's always going to be a thing that the owners want. But when we're talking growing the game, fan interaction, another step that goes even further is if you're doing this, this dead period, you're not signing anybody, you're not making any trades. What happens in the offseason? All teams have their caravan, they have their things in the offseason that they bring these fans back to, especially when you got a new signing. Oh, we got a new signing right before our, Pirates Fest or, Tigers, whatever they call it. You don't have that anymore. You know what I mean? That's another thing. So how do you continue to grow the game if you're not going to be excited in the off season? So just those were some things that popped up in my mind too, where like, every off season there was that period in, early January where, hey, we're going back to, surrounding cities, maybe to our city convention center, do a signing, we're on stage, the fans are getting excited because spring training is coming back.
Yeah.
And at that point you're introducing new signings, trades, how do you introduce that? You just wait till you get to spring training now, and you don't have that off season, interaction with the fans and saying, let's get ready for this next season. To me, that takes away a whole lot, especially when you got a long season. Yeah, we know the off season is precious, but at the same time, that's where you get things done. And if you are taking away the big part of the off season, which is making your team better, and putting that into a 2-week period, that's tough.
Yeah, winter gets depressing. You want to make it more depressing for me? You're like trying to force me to watch the Chiefs or the Patriots make the AFC Championship game every year. I'm good. I'd like to see some signings, please, in January. Thank you. Hey, before we get to the rest, there's 2 or 3 other changes that were proposed that I'd like to get your thoughts on because it's very roster transaction-y, and I think you guys will have a good take here. Subscribe to FT. That'd be cool. Baseball, the way it should be covered. Click subscribe if you're watching right now. Thank you very, very much. Okay, next up. MLB wants weekly rosters set. Some of these categories are where I'm going to rely on you guys. So like Kratz, start us out here. They basically want to have the rosters and the moves set so that it's once a week, like Sunday into Monday. Okay. You can still do waiver claims. There's going to be certain, paternity lists kind of situations, injury lists, that stuff will pop up. Although the IL will change according to this proposal. The IL, instead of being 15 and 10, would be a 1 week and a 2 week IL. And then you'd still have to spill the IL through a Monday. Hopefully I explained that well enough, right? Because everything kind of revolves around setting rosters at the top of the week. Now, again, they said all of this is contingent on a cap, so that's its own beast. But what do you think of setting weekly rosters?
I mean, I don't understand how a cap makes you need to set the rosters differently. Whatever. It is what it is.
Kratz, you don't understand. You can't breathe without a cap. So they just want to keep mentioning that.
Right.
Like, nothing changes. We're never going to advance the world without it. So I just have to put the disclaimer in there because that's what they put in there. Everything, right? We blackouts across the country. We can't have, Iowa can't watch baseball because there's no salary cap.
Right.
You think I'm joking about that? That's a real thing that was said in the past month. But anyway, your thoughts on I'm saying to the fans, if anyone's listening right now and being like, oh, Scott's trying to crack a joke. I'm not. That was literally told to us. There's quotes. But anyway, go ahead, Kratz.
I don't 100%. And I want to know more about why they feel like this Monday to Monday or the rosters need to be set at the beginning of the week. I'm not 100% versed on it. except for the fact that how are teams going to use this as a roster manipulation? We just had Dylan Smith on. As a guy trying to get called up to the big leagues, getting called up and then having options getting sent down, also injuries, also teams using it, how to manipulate it. If they're putting this in here, I'm just fearful of where this lands in the roster manipulation for players that are usually the less sought after players. So that's my fear without knowing a ton about exactly how this is going to work from a mechanics standpoint for teams to use this new IL placement.
Yeah, I have some other concerns too. Obviously, the IL placement is, I mean, kind of injuries got to take their own time, and to say it's got to be marked starting on a Monday to this or that is a little tough. But more than anything, the set roster is confusing to me more from a pitching standpoint, especially in baseball, the day-to-day grind of, you might get rained out. Obviously, I know the 27th man, whatever, they'll probably still have stuff like that. But what happens when your bullpen is taxed 3 days in a row and you got guys doing multiple ups that aren't used to it, and you have a roster set that you're telling me I can't make a change? You know what? We got guys in the bullpen that aren't used to throwing 3 days in a row, and this dude threw 3 days in a row. You know what? He has options. We have to send a dude down to bring a guy up. So does that affect that now to where it's like, oh, you got to wait till Monday next week to send them down, and then you're possibly sending out guys that I'm just looking at it from an injury standpoint, where if you got pitching is one thing that is always a revolving door, because I mean, we saw it a couple weeks ago or just last week. I think, granted, you can put a position player in when the score is, 8, more than 8 after a certain time. But, there are times where teams are putting up 12 before the 5th inning and you're dipping into the bullpen. Baseball is a crazy game. So mine is also with that injury list. Sometimes it could lead to more injury because you got a roster set that you're telling me I can only move if somebody gets injured. That was my other concern as and I don't know if I'm reading into that correctly, but that's how it sounds, as if your roster set, you can only move if somebody's got injured or if they're on like the, like paternity list or something. Is that what it's saying?
It sounds like, yeah, you can't do the shuffle, right? They're trying to get rid of the shuttle. Up and down, up and down, everybody up and down.
The shuttle's needed for pitching in moments where you're in a stretch of 20 straight and your bullpen's taxed. You might need to bring that guy. So
you'll just IL people. They're just, what it'll create? More phantom.
But then it'll be a backlog because you can only be on the IL starting from a certain day, though, right?
Well, no, you can place them. So let me give you an example, right? Thursday. Bullpen got taxed. You want to call someone else up and do the shuttle. Instead of that, you'll say, hey, random reliever, something's wrong. You're going on the phantom IL. So you're out today, Thursday, because we need an arm. And then you're going to be out through Monday. And then we can bring you back next Thursday or maybe it's the next Monday, whatever it is, right?
But I thought pitchers had to do 14 days.
Oh, wait. Sorry. So it would go Thursday through 2 Mondays then, I guess, Kratz? Does that sound right?
Yeah, because it said it's not a typical.
So
yeah, that's what I don't know. That's why I don't know the mechanics of it.
That's why I was like, it sounded like a dude could literally need to be on a list for 10 days, but due to it being in the middle of the week, he could be on there 17. That's what I was saying. Then you might have guys.
No, you're right. That's what they mentioned. It has to get through the cycle. I don't know. Sounds confusing. Sounds kind of stupid. And the last
only
thing,
because
by the way,
of the salary cap. Yeah. The only way it's happening is if there's a salary cap and it will save everything. You're an idiot. You're wearing your hat backwards.
Yep, exactly. And the last thing was they want for the Rule 5 draft, they said that they would make guys eligible earlier and you wouldn't have to keep the guy up in the major leagues. If you pick him from the Rule 5 draft, he could still go down in the minors. So again, only if there's a cap because it's all related. Blackouts, Rule 5, all of that. So just make sure you know that. And if you don't know that, there's commercials during many MLB games on MLB.tv that will help convince you how to solve world peace. Okay. Breaking news. Thank you. This is a fun story. Breaking news coming up next. Finally. I think I say it with hesitancy, but it sounds real. the Rays, after like 20 years of trying to figure this out, have the approvals that they need. New owner in the past year, now new ballpark approved. Not in St. Pete, not in St. Petersburg. This is Hillsborough County. They just approved 5-2, the new deal for the Rays. There were 2 approvals that were needed. Yep. Tampa City Council, that was a close one, 4-3. Hillsborough was easier. That's the county, right? And that was 5-2. It's a $2.3 billion ballpark in Tampa. And it is projected to open in 2029. So let's get to work. As far as who's paying for what, if you really care about that stuff, Hillsborough County and the city, those 2 combined, are going to commit $876 million of tax money or whatever. And then the Rays will pay $1.37 billion plus all construction overruns. So the Rays pay like, what is that? About 2/3. And then the city and the county pay about 1/3. And finally, Kratz, we're going to get some baseball in what? How many years is that? 3 years out of the basement carpet drop.
I mean, we got a new roof and everything, and now we're moving out. Like, let's get this is good. This is good. As much as I loved the proposed village land that was going to be going on in St. Pete, that the original ownership and original politicians kind of agreed on. Yeah, it would have been great for the St. Pete area over a 30-year period. Awesome. Ultimately, moving to Tampa, this is great. This is great for baseball as a whole, and this is great, in my opinion, for the Rays as an organization, because you've seen what the Lightning, which is not a sport, hockey is not a sport that is played in Florida at the extent that baseball is played. So bringing it to Tampa, hopefully this allows fans of the Tampa Bay Rays, not the St. Pete Rays, the Tampa Bay Rays, to come and support their team just like they support the other franchises that are in the city.
Yeah, you definitely hit it. Tampa Bay, being in Tampa Bay. And just in time, they, as you said, got the roof fixed. But I think it's a smart move, as you mentioned. It gives those fans, people that live in Tampa Bay, no disrespect to the people in St. Pete, I'm sure they're going to feel some type of way, but still not that bad of a drive. And I know it's one of those things where it's something to look forward to. Next couple of years, we'll have a new ballpark for the Tampa Bay Rays, and I think it's kind of fitting seeing that the Tampa Bay Rays will be in Tampa Bay.
That is also, so AJ hosts like a few times a month these days, and whenever he's hosting, he usually takes shots at me. So it is finally my chance to declare AJ Pierzynski upset today. Unfortunately, he is not hosting today because he is shedding tears. He is very upset. The Orlando Rays are extinct. They never were born. They never will be born. It hurts for me too. I love Orlando, but also I'm very well aware that there's not going to be baseball in Orlando and Tampa. So the Orlando Dreamers can keep dreaming. The only chance that Orlando had was if the Rays moved to Orlando. It always seemed on the government side that it was not going to happen. That's a real thing, right? All the way up to the governor did not want them to move out of the Tampa Bay area. They will not move out of the Tampa Bay area if all this goes the way it should. And it sounds like this is real. I know that people have been fooled before. In Kratz, we went through this whole song and dance with the A's. And then over the last few years, oh, it sounds like it's happening. Oh, now it's not again. Oh, they have to redo it. Oh, and then, of course, we had the hurricane, which was terrible. And then that messed up the plans and the communication line with Stu Sternberg, the old owner of the Rays. This one sounds legit. Now, I didn't get to read everything, and this happened and broke kind of right around when our show started, but it sounds like this is real. And I'm not the expert on this. We can get AJ to comment next week, but the Rays being in Tampa versus the Rays being in St. Pete, according to every single person that knows that area better than I do, is a huge win. Players, fans, traffic, you name it. It is no offense to St. Petersburg. That is a great spot. You want to go down there and visit and have a good time and hit the beaches? Great. But I would like to not be stuck in worlds of traffic going across a causeway is what I've learned it's called. So props to Tampa for getting this done. The thing that I'm rooting for in this case is we need baseball to be represented better in Florida. That's the real problem here that Kratz is alluding to. Why is baseball getting dusted by hockey in Florida, right? And Miami has its own problems and I would say entertainment distractions and competition, but in the Tampa Bay area, baseball should be dominating and the Rays are good most years. So you look around and you're like, what is going on here? Crappy ballpark, too much traffic. Okay, well, it sounds like we have a potential lane to fix both of those problems.
Here it is. This is the last chance. I'm not saying baseball's leaving Florida because it'll never leave Florida, but it is both cases, St. Pete and Miami. The stadium was not built where it should have been built. So the Rays have a shot to change that. I think they did a tremendous job with the Lightning Stadium. It's an event to go down there and you go and watch hockey. It's entertainment. Baseball's played all over the state. You can go to a Rays game and be entertained if they do it correctly. So to me, this is their chance to help Florida get that name of, hey, you know what? We love baseball. We know baseball down here, and get fans out. Because Miami, they built it, they built the stadium there because of a very political push, and it's just not that convenient spot that fans are going to go to. And if it's not convenient, why am I going to go to an affordable game? Why am I going to go to this? So make it be about the fans. The location, I think Tampa's going to get it right. Tampa Bay, the actual city of Tampa Bay, is going to get it right. And that is what is important. And I think if this team can increase attendance, increase just the city dynamic that they've been lacking since being in St. Pete, it's going to help all of baseball. So all owners should be behind this.
And just correcting Kratz, which immediately struck a chord for me when you said it. Tampa.
I said Tampa Bay.
Yes.
I didn't go back and fix it. The city of Tampa. The city of Tampa. The area of Tampa Bay, not the St. Pete Rays.
Just to prevent someone who was waiting
like
7 minutes into this segment, just to tell you what's good. Like Kratz doesn't know what's going on down there. He does. The games were played last part here in Tampa last year while the Rays had to fix up the ballpark from the hurricane. Also, side note, and this is a real thing, this should have been done many years ago. It's annoying that it didn't, and I'm not putting all the blame on anybody, really. There's blame to be put everywhere, but that is why a ton of money had to be wasted to then put, a roof back on the Trop. That thing was built so long ago, and it's like paper mache. Of course, a natural disaster at some point was going to cause a problem, and it's dangerous. That park should not have been there for that long. So now they fixed it up, great. But really, in an ideal world, this would have happened a long time ago. We're pushing forward. It's all good now. But when they played last year in the Yankees exhibition home, Kratz, they did pretty well with the crowds there. And it's Florida in the summertime, so it was outside. So what they were seeing was very promising, case studies, I would call it. Okay, if we do this in this area and during the summer months that are crazy, we're not outside, this is going to be a vibe. People will show up like they are for the Lightning games. Is it going to be perfect? No, I think you have to also just buy some goodwill over a time period. Are you going to invest a little bit more in the team? All of that. And I have hopes that the Rays will do that. But ultimately, will attendance numbers go up long term, not just for the 1 year first shiny new stadium pop? I think it will.
Yes, I agree. I think it will. And I think that area really knows ball. They know ball, and they've built a little bit of a fan base that I think extends down to the Sarasota area, through Tampa, through, in different areas that have grown around Tampa that now they have access to the stadium. It doesn't take you 45 minutes to drive 10 miles.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited about it. Obviously I'm down there a good chunk of the year. And when I'm with AJ, we will hop over to the new ballpark and check it out in a few years. So we'll keep you posted on the news there as it develops. All right, let's hit locks. Got that under yesterday, Kratz. That series was bound to get a little low on the scoring section after the first two. I mean, it wasn't bound to, but it did. So Astros get the dub. Big series win for Houston, by the way, over the Yankees. And we didn't have time to get to this today, but damn, George Lombard, an error in 6 straight. I feel for the kid, but I think he'll be okay. Nice hit for you on Cole and Wisniewski.
Yeah, that was a kind of a no sweat. Both teams can strike out. Garrett knows how to get his strikeouts. He got his 5 with throwing a ton of strikes.
Money bags, beauty. Josh, you're down, but just a little bit for your pinch hit appearances here.
Yeah,
what do you got tonight?
I'm gonna go Kansas City money line. I'm put down 100 to win 115. Can't get it all back at once, but got to try to chip away.
Nice. I'm gonna go with the money line too, and I'll always remember this bet, right, Kratz? Because I don't usually bet on anything travel related, but the Red Sox had that annoying trip. They were going off low sleep. They faced Cam Schlittler and they hit him. So I think, there's some value here with the Red Sox tonight, getting all pumped for a series here against the Yankees, plus 125 on the money line. So I'll take Boston tonight over the Yankees. What about you?
Yeah, I love that build up. All right, everybody stay with me here. This is the second in the ladder challenge. It's a little bit tough to follow, but very easy because Jay Hayes Pirates suck against left-handed pitching. And guess who's left-handed? Quinn Matthews is left-handed. So he's going to get 4+ strikeouts, and the Cardinals are going to they get plus 0.5 in the first 5 innings, meaning if it's a tie ball game, which I think it's going to be low scoring, they don't hit lefties very well. Even if it's a tie ball game, this lock hits. We're going to put yesterday's winnings down, including the 20 we put out. So it'll be 50 total to double our money on the next step of the ladder challenge.
There it is. And this show's on demand. So if you need help, you can just rewind back until you get it all right from Kratz's ladder challenge. If you want maybe a simpler explanation of how to do something, we always have Parlay Pap.
FT Nation, what's up? It's your boy Parlay Pap coming to you on this Friday. We're going to get some Friday cheese. Listen, we're going back to the old strategy. We're going to go against the Rockies and going against the Athletics, 2 of the worst teams in the Major League Baseball. So we're taking the Braves and we're taking the Orioles. We're going to parlay them together. We're going to take them in the money line. We're going to get plus 166, and we're going to put 100 on it. So let's get that cheese, baby.
Yeah, it's the Braves, ATL and BAL Baltimore. Combine those 2 on the parlay, and that is Parlay Pap. Back to his old tricks, fading teams. That didn't work for a bit. There's too much parity this year, but it's working down the stretch for some of the teams that have either sold big or are hit with major injuries like the A's are. Those are your locks tonight. Good luck if you're rolling with it, and you might be able to add something to that lock tonight or one of your picks. The BetMGM Swing for the Fences game, you know the deal at this point. Get a hit, and you might get something like a bonus bet, an odds boost token, same game parlay boost token. Go for it. Play as the batter, select an area of the zone, and see if you win. Gambling problem or concern, there's help. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Oops, I just knocked over my mic because it's Friday. Let's do 2 things. Let's save the Murakami news. Yeah, you okay? Sorry. I'm trying a new mic setup, but so far it's mostly working, except for
now
the last minute of a show on a Friday. Well, do you hear me? Good. Do you see the mic? Yes. No? Good. All right. We're winning. 2 things. One first for you, Kratz, because you know Brent Strom, right?
Oh,
yeah. He's back. He's back with the Astros. We'll save the Murakami news, by the way, that he's in some extension talks potentially, or they've had some combos. We'll save that for Monday with AJ. But Brent Strom is going to be in the dugout for the Astros as a pitching consultant. Joe Espada said he's expected to join the team today at Citi Field. So Strom's back. I got to look up the age while you're talking. I think he's like 83. Does that sound right?
It's up there. Stromer was the pitching coach when I was in Houston. And I mean, the stuff that he brought, and he actually taught the current pitching coaches that are in Houston now, and they kind of took over. I'm not saying they should have gotten rid of Stromer, but you know what? He bringing him in as a consultant, I love that. Maybe questioning or just helping them continue to develop, because he was always interested in what the next new thing was. For being over 80 years old, he definitely was not afraid of what was out there, the new things. But how many coaches are you allowed in the dugout? Like, I feel like you need like a certain, like, I feel like Major League Baseball has to like curtail this. We can't just be putting 15 different dudes. It's going to start looking like winter ball in there.
Josh, how many coaches when you finished up?
I'll be honest. I feel like more and more started getting added. But I feel like no, for real. But I feel like they had a limit because only so many coaches could be on the bench or in the dugout at a time. But I feel like obviously things have changed. But back when it was like September call-ups, and it would be like I feel like they've gotten rid of being able to call up a lot of the 40-man, but they can call up a lot of coaches. But there's a lot of different specific coaches for a lot of different things. This guy knows how to do the software for the trajectory, and it's like, but so they'll create places, but some of the spots are needed. You know, sometimes, and especially in this case, you said Strom is what, 83. That's some knowledge that you can't compute or quantify. So he's probably given a different set of eyes where it's like, you know what, let's look at the analytics and I can give you the feel with that. You know, they go hand in hand. So you might see some people trying to blend that in, and as to why Houston's probably bringing in a guy like Strom that's been around.
I robbed 6 years from him, and he looks great. My point was going to be like 83 looking great. He's 77.
Yeah,
he looks great.
My apologies.
That's my apologies.
I ran with
77. Hey, I'm respecting that. Yeah, I mean, he is sharp as ever, super smart, right? And clearly, I mean, 77. There's not a lot of 77. He's probably the oldest coach, right? I'm talking overall coaching staffs. I don't know if there's anybody.
Nobody full time.
I would feel like that's a safe bet.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, good. So respecting his game. And then lastly, I just wanted to shout out Walker Jenkins getting called up to the show. Almost a year in AAA now, plenty of injuries and all of that. And Aaron Gleeman, who covers the team, pointed out how I guess there was like some conspiracy theory stuff about not calling him up, and then he could play AAA during the lockout next year. All that's gone now. He's a major league player. He's up in the show. He's should be in the lineup tonight. So we have our Twin Cities Territory show that did a breaking news show on it yesterday. That includes Dan Hayes and company. Dan was really sharp on this. He called it the other day. Like he was like, Friday, he's probably going to get called up, and he is. So we're actually going to end the show today with a couple minutes for you on a clip from Twin Cities Territory talking about Walker Jenkins. Hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Jay Hay, Kratz, good show today.
And I think the Twins are hopeful that one day he'll be among that group of like all-time greats. But he made this impossible to say no by just hitting and hitting and hitting. We know that there are 5 tools there. We know he can play defense. I think also the defense we saw on Wednesday night probably played into this a little bit. But the timing of Byron Buxton getting dinged up, that they weren't going to make that move on the road. They were not going to fly Walker Jenkins across the country for a game to fly him across the country and get home at 5 a.m. afterwards. That's not especially because they were going to see how Buxton was doing. Buxton was supposed to be off on Wednesday, no matter what. That was already in the plans. So I think like the guys just made it to where they have to say yes, because he homered again on Wednesday night. That's his 8th home run in August. I don't know the up to the minute numbers, but he's been ridiculous in August. His average is over 400. His slug is through the roof, over 700, I believe. He's showing them that the power is real. And, I still will contend that a lot of those fly balls to left are not going to be home runs in the big leagues. St. Paul, like the home run on Wednesday night was 96.6 off the bat. But I still think that probably gets down. Maybe it hits the wall, something like that. But like he's just proven everything he can. The only question that really exists on him is he still hasn't played 300 professional games in his